Welcome back to the Better Men, Better Ball Player podcast. I'm your host, Trey Cobb. I want to thank you for joining us here on our 70th episode of the podcast, where we get to talk to head coach at Bluefield State College, Drew Bailey. This was his first year at Bluefield State, and they had the best season that Bluefield State College has had in their to date. And so in this year they were 15-12 overall. They made their first appearance and won the first Black College World Series against Xavier University of Louisiana. And Coach Bailey just dives into a lot of that success here in the podcast. Coach Bailey, for those of you that don't know, followed him. He's had several other stints. He's been the recruiting coordinator, former pitching coach at Concord University, where he also was a great player. He's played professionally, got to play in athletics organizations, and his time there before it was shortened by injury. Had very impressive, racked up 48 strikeouts and 54 innings in his pro career. At ERA 280, and limited his opponent batting average at 216. So after his injury limited career, and then got into coaching, and he's been doing really well ever since. Was the former head baseball coach as well as at Averett University, and being from the area, was able to take over the Bluefield State College program in the winter. We talk a little bit about that the winter before they started playing in the spring, and where recruiting was very limited, and he was able to get to work right away, and they had, like I said, the best season that they've ever had in their history, and it's only continued to ride from there. And so we got a chance to talk about that and talk about his challenges and talk about what he believes in, his values, and he's really using this game as a platform to continue to grow their community, grow the men, grow, and make it a lot bigger than just this game of baseball. And their results are speaking for themselves, and they've got one of their best recruiting classes coming in, and he's got people on the bus that are finding what he's doing. So, Coach Drew Bailey from Bluefield State College in West Virginia, coming in hot with another great episode brought to you by the guys at Netting Pros. My buddy Will Miner. Netting professionals are improving programs one facility at a time. Netting professionals specialize in design, fabrication, and installation of custom netting for backstops, batting cages, dugouts, scoreboards, BP screens, and ball carts. They also design and install digital graphing wall padding, windscreen, turf protectors, dugout benches, dugout cubbies, and a lot more. The guys over at Netting Pros continue to provide quality products and services to make recreation, high school, college fields, facilities, stadiums all throughout the country. Contact them at 844-620-2707 or info@nettingpros.com. You can go to their website at nettingpros.com or check them out on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn for all the latest products and projects. So I got to thank those guys for making this possible and helping us grow the game and putting it on a bigger platform for people. So again, Will, I can't thank you enough, and all those guys at Netting Pros. So without further ado, when we get in this great conversation, I took a ton of notes. If you haven't seen them, they're on Podbean. For those people that don't know, I put them on Podbean where you can find our notes. But I know a lot of guys and a lot of coaches taking their own notes and things like that. But we do keep them there on the Podbean website. And just really thankful for Coach Drew Bailey, another great guy. Fortunate enough to have a great conversation with and hit the record button, and we just talk some good baseball. So you want to learn about culture, relationships, pitching development. Really sharp guy about pitching and Rapsodo development, and we talk a good bit about that. We could dive in a whole nother episode about that. But Coach Drew Bailey, can't thank you enough, buddy. And here he is, Coach Drew Bailey from Bluefield State College.
I want to play in the College World Series. That's my goal, and I think it's a very realistic goal. I think you try and speak things into existence with your work ethic and your drive and your passion. And first off, you got to surround yourself with good people, and that's what I've done this year. We just hired a full-time hitting coach. His name's Evan RECOR. He actually just came from Syracuse in the ACC in softball, but he worked with me at Averett. I don't ever like to say that he worked for me because we worked together. And Got a guy, Kevon Moxie. He played for me last year. He's going to be an assistant coach. Then we've got another guy, Chris Guzzi, who was with us last year. And then I've got a student assistant. So I'm actually going to have a staff this year, which is great. You can't do anything without good people around you. Last year, it was just Coach Guzzi and myself, and Coach Guzzi coaches or teaches middle school history. So there'll be days he can't be there, which is completely understandable. And, and I'm throwing BP, hitting fungos, I'm in the bullpen, trying to do everything. So we had a staff meeting last week. So to actually have a staff and be able to delegate, I think, going back to my goal of playing in the College World Series, you've got to trust people. You've got to have people around you that you trust. You got to have people that are loyal, and you've got to allow them to do their jobs. You got to allow them to fail, which is important, because obviously in everything we do, you're a teacher, coach, we're going to fail. So we've got to be able to allow people to fail and coach them up and help each other. And I'm going to learn just as much from these guys, hopefully, as they learn from me. That's how I like to work. So going back to Bluefield State, first year was great. We couldn't have drawn that up any better. And I hope when people understand when I talk about our first winning season and stuff like that, I didn't do that. That's our guys. And I'm extremely excited about that. First winning season, I think we went 15-12. We got put in quarantine. We lost some time to COVID. And from the time I took over, there wasn't really a lot of recruiting done.
Mm-hmm. Because you came into it late, right? I can't imagine how you could have.
6 weeks before the season started.
Yeah.
There was no recruiting done. So I had to go to work right away recruiting and learn who my guys were, evaluate them as we're trying to get ready to go play Shorter in Georgia, who ends up playing NCAA regional. Recruiting side, obviously recruiting that's your lifeline of your program. Like, two things I think are extremely important is your recruiting and your culture. You got to be able to recruit, and you've got to be able to have expectations in your program and a strong culture if you want to win. So my wife we were getting ready to get married in June. We just got married about a month today. So happy anniversary to her.
There you go.
She's sitting across from the drink. But, so I'm recruiting, trying to set some culture in the program. And it was a lot, but for me, it's just getting guys to believe that they can win. Structure is huge. I don't care what level you're at. You've got to have structure, practice plan, whatever it may be. And sometimes we'll deviate from the plan. But so creating structure, recruiting, and trying to build that culture was huge for me. And setting an expectation in these guys' minds that, hey, we can win. We have to expect to win, and we have to prepare to win. So it was a lot. I'm not going to lie to you. It was a lot taking over still, but I love the challenge. And now, first year, we have a winning season. We go play in the HBCU World Series and win a championship for the first time, play for a championship for the first time. Did a lot of good things. We're getting guys out in summer ball that maybe we haven't seen before. We've got 6 or 7 guys playing in the new Appalachian League backed by Team USA and Major League Baseball. We're getting on the recruiting trail. We're getting people to know our brand, who we are. I was at BMI team camp. Last week I was working Team USA NTIS out recruiting. This week I'm at Auburn University working their team camp. And then the week after we're at Lake Point. So getting out, letting people recognize who we are as a program and what our goal is. And I talk a lot about winning with you so far, and that is we want to win. Everybody wants to win, but I want them to grow into young men. That's the goal. I want these guys to learn to be accountable. I want them to be prepared for real life. And hopefully when we're using baseball as that platform to teach those principles and instill those, we're going to win a lot of baseball games, on the way. And most of the times when guys mature mentally, the physical and the skill set part, those get better. People are, we want to celebrate that, and we can get into that later. But, being at a historically Black college, we want to create a diverse setting. It's a challenge in West Virginia. You don't have a lot of young Black males playing baseball, and that's a goal that ties into my facility when I run these $20 camps, trying to create a more diverse setting. But there's so many people on the road that are excited to know that there's an HBCU in West Virginia. And we've got young black males coming. We've got guys from Puerto Rico. We've got a young man who's Lumbee Indian. We've got Latin guys. Like it's exciting. We're trying to create that diverse setting and win baseball games and create that culture. So I'm sure you can tell from my voice. Like I love it. I love it. My wife probably gets frustrated with me, and maybe every college coach's wife does. But I'm recruiting 24/7. I'm always trying to find the right fit and the guys to join our program and to make our community proud. And it's just been a really exciting time. I mean, we won a HBCU World Series. I got married. First winning season in school history. Got a staff coming together. We're working on planning to build a brand new turf field. So it's a lot. It's a lot going on, but it's exciting times.
It sounds like it, man. It's a lot of things going on for sure. And how do you I guess, like I said, I guess it's part of that structure, that you talked about building is being able to keep all those things in place. Like, what is your next step? Like, do you have like basically a 3-year plan and you're trying to hit your marks where they are? Like you said, you're building a staff and then kind of going on from there. Like what kind of structure do you have planned for the next 3 years for the program?
So, I've got a couple different phases that I want to get into as far as the program, because again, it's more than about wins and losses, but recruiting side, I've got a goal that I'd like to have our majority of our class done by the early signing period. If we can get into that realm, we're doing a pretty good job recruiting wise, and we're a little bit maybe ahead of the curve, but we're doing a good job. Alumni, I've got some goals there, running some alumni events. We want to get those guys involved. There's a lot of guys right now that are proud of what we accomplished in year one, and we want to get those guys organized. I've got classroom goals. Yeah, I've got everything laid out. We want a 3.2 GPA academically. NCAA regional is our first goal. Right now we're NCAA Division II independent. I'm hoping we get into a league. I'd love to see us go into the Mountain East. That makes the most sense. Concord's right here, 30 minutes away.
Yep.
Charleston, West Virginia State. There's 4 teams right there within not even a 2-hour radius. So, but an NCAA regional is a goal on the field, and really just setting the expectation. And I think communication is key with your players. What do we expect? I expect these guys, if you look on our Twitter, work ethic, accountability, kindness, and being respectful. We've got a couple things some pillars we try and live by. And I try and instill in those guys. So there's a lot of different goals in different areas, but I think for me is I have to lead our guys and do it in a way that I'm transparent. There's not a lot of fluff. I'm transparent, but I lead our guys in a way that they can follow suit and they can look up to me and look up to our staff. We hold them accountable. The expectation is that they act like grown men. That they understand that everything they do, they represent their family, our program, our president, our institution, our athletic director. Everything these guys do, they represent our community. A lot of people who have put in a lot of hard work before them that didn't have the resources that we have as a program. So I've got a lot of goals in different areas of the program, and I think the communication piece is key from the top down. Leadership starts from the top down. We're going to run a developmental team, and so there's a lot of moving parts going on. But I told my staff at our first staff meeting, we treat our number one guy the same way we treat our 50th guy or whatever it may be. We love on those guys. We coach them up and we teach nonstop. And again, I know I keep coming back to communication, but I think a lot of things get lost in the shuffle when you don't communicate. Letting guys know where they stand, depth chart wise, letting guys know what they need to work on, et cetera. I like what Nick Saban says. He always says about, we don't have a lot of rules, we have expectations, and that's always stuck with me. These guys, at least last year's team, we got a huge group coming in, but excuse me, they know what I expect out of them. They know how I expect them to act. No hats in the classroom. Take your hat off when you eat. Sit in the first 2 rows of class. Look people in the eye when you speak to them. Stuff like that I think goes a really long ways. We use manners when we go out to eat or whatever it may be. So I've got a lot of goals, and I could sit here for hours with you and go over those. But I want them to be grown men, and I want to get an NCAA regional. And I think that's huge. And we stacked our schedule this year. Being an NCAA Division II independent, not easy to get into an NCAA regional. But we've got Concord 4 times. We're going to get West Virginia State on the schedule, Glenville State. We got Millersville. We've got North Greenville. We got Lenore Ryan. We got Shorter, who was in NCAA regional. Like we've got Anderson to open up the season. We got a really good schedule. We got Shepherd.
Good.
I stacked it. If we want to get good, we got to beat the best teams.
Absolutely.
I mean,
you're playing a region right there. You're playing the region championships. I mean, the last 5-6 region championships. You're playing them.
Yeah, that's the goal.
There's regional guys at Millersville. I guess the only other one would be like, I guess in that region, maybe Westchester will be another one. Maybe you can.
Millersville, Shepherd. I mean, Concord just played the Mountain East championship. State ended up beating them twice.
State,
Shorter was top 25. They finished third in the Gulf South.
It's really tough.
One of the best leagues in the country. Yeah, so
that's a great schedule for sure.
Oh yeah, so our student assistant was sitting with us at our staff meeting. I'm going over our schedule for next year, and he was like, "Oh, okay." Yeah. But that's just how I feel. We've got to play those teams, and I would rather lose a close game against one of those ranked opponents than go beat somebody 10-0 that we should beat. It's just I don't want to lose ever, but the reality of it is we're going to get better playing those teams. And that's going to be another change to the culture here that, when we bring in Millersville into Bluefield, West Virginia, and they're running out a boatload of arms. And I just think it's going to make us better. And I couldn't be more excited about the schedule we have put together.
Yeah, you got your work cut out for you, man. That's for sure. Good for you, man. That's great. I think, you're just trying to build a culture too, and a culture of winning. And like you said earlier, you said speaking into existence. It's exactly where it starts, And I think it's only going to help your recruiting too. People want to play those guys. Oh, Millersville passed on me. Okay, we're going to go play them, and you can go show them where you're at. You know what I mean? So you can really use that. And Sheehan's is a great guy. I think it's only, you're surrounding yourself even with just great coaches too, and how they won their program, and kids can see like this is what, they've been the standard in that region. And,
McCarty is Shepherd.
McCarty, McCarty's a dude.
I get to play Kevin Garrett, who's I played for, and I got to work under for a little bit. And my best friend Devin Smith, the associate head coach over there, and he'll be the next guy in line. He'll be the next guy to take that program over. And I mean, it's just going to be. We get to play UVA Wise. Brandon Costa, he's another Concord alum.
Nice.
Played with Leather and those guys.
Yeah.
At Frederick.
He's at Frederick, right? He went FCC.
Yeah, Costa was at Frederick, and now he's the head coach at UVA Wise Division II. So, I mean, I couldn't be more excited. And I am extremely excited about the recruiting class we have coming in. We got a shortstop transfer from Virginia Tech, who can really play. Braden Merrick got an all-league shortstop out of Davie County High School. Blake Little. We got a kid from Puerto Rico, Alfredo Carrion, runs 6'5". We got a center fielder transfer from North Carolina Central. They did away with their program. Got an arm. We got their number 3 weekend arm coming from there. Got some really talented. Got a talented high school arm coming out of Asheboro. And we got a ton of talent coming in. And I'm just the fall. Now that's a different conversation, but the fall is the best season. We get to really evaluate our guys, see what we have, implement our systems, how we want to create the swing, or how we want to construct the swing, the delivery. How we run the bases, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it's going to be so much fun this fall with all the talent we have coming in, and the guys that we bring back that were a part of last year's team. And competition, breeds winning, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, I love that. The fall season is for surely a really fun time. It's just like the preseason in high school, like just trying to get your guys see where they're at. And I think it's also going to show like the kind of guys that you want, like this is going to continue the culture. Because if you're not, I can see like if they're not used to competing, that could definitely be something that, like you'll be able to see pretty right away, where if guys are going to like this competition or not.
Mm-hmm.
So let's dive into some development and stuff, man. Like what kind of things, like, so, we'll, from a development standpoint, what kind of things do you think you do really well? Like what kind of things are you trying to, let's say, we could go so many different routes here, like from a standpoint of like, cause I know you had your background in the private industry about developing pitchers. So I'm assuming, is that something that you really took to and kind of stick with at Bluefield?
Yeah. So, I don't know if I do anything great start off, but I definitely study and I put a lot of effort in. One of my buddies, my good mentors, Kurt Goodson, he owns Backers K Academy. He's taught me so much. But from the pitching side, a lot of video. I use a lot of video. There's only so many cues you can give to guys without overcoaching them and making them become mechanical robots. So the athleticism part of the delivery is huge, and the swing and the pitching delivery. We want to keep guys athletic. I use a lot of video because we have so many. Sorry about that. I just got a call from him.
Okay.
We have so many coaches that we cue guys up and I think it takes the athleticism out a lot of the time. And on top, everybody has cues, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I think we overcoach a lot. But on top of that, I think that when we overcoach, guys can't process and compete, especially in game. And that's one thing I went away from is in game, talking mechanics in game. I don't do it. But back to development, I think that we have so much different verbiage for mechanics. Like you and I might be talking about the same thing, but our words are completely different. So even if a kid doesn't quite interpret what we're saying, when we have it up on the TV and we can show them their movement, okay, now that makes sense, right? Because we're coaching them with words while they're pitching, in a pen or whatever. And it's like they don't quite understand or grasp what we're saying, but when they can turn right around and look at the TV on the stand and, okay, I see what you mean. I'm not really holding tension in my back hip, or I'm not staying vertical in my upper body and the foot strike, or whatever it is. I think the video is huge. Now, the feel aspect of that is big too. We've got to be able to feel our adjustments. I always say the 2 F's: film and feel. We got to film it, and we got to be able to feel it. So I'm really big on video. I really like the rep soto. I'm a huge fan of the rep soto. I know we've got guys on Twitter that are, they think tech is taking over baseball, but if I have 2 options, if I can guess about it or if I can measure it, I'm going to measure it.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean that we always have to go with the data, but if it justifies or reinforces what we're trying to teach, and we can know why not, why not use the data? So I really like Rep Soto, and I'm finding so much out about it. I love checking out StatCast on MLB.com. There's like, for example, there's very few guys in the big leagues that actually throw a 2-seam and a 4-seam, and they throw them above average. Like there's very few guys that actually throw a legit 2 and 4. So when we identify guys and their axis that they spin the baseball, whatever, it's like, hey, you're a 145 slot axis. And usually it correlates directly to the slot. Not always, but most of the time. Like, hey, you're not a 4-seam guy.
Yeah.
But sometimes you might grab a 4-seam from that slot and you get more horizontal break than you do a 2. So that's where coaching's unique. You've got to figure out what works for that kid. But again, curveball slider. How many kids you run into on the travel circuit or on the recruiting trail or 13-year-olds that say they throw a curveball and a slider, and then you put it up on the Rep Soto, and one is a worse version than the other, or they're the same.
Yep.
Or they're the same. So if we can measure that stuff, why not measure it? And that's what I like. I really like the data, but again, it's a resource. It's not an end all be all. If you throw a slur, that's not a bad thing. If you're getting guys out with it,
Mm-hmm.
that's what matters at the end of the day. We're trying to get guys out. Not just be really good at throwing off the Rep Soto. So I think there has to be a balance, but I think it's a resource. It's not an end all be all. This is not just what we have, or we don't just have to go off of this, but I do like using it as a true resource. Do we spin the ball efficiently? If we can't stay behind the baseball, the spin rate, you're not going to have a true spin rate. You're not going to have vertical break on a high 4-seam, whatever it may be. So, I really enjoy the Rep Soto. I really enjoy a lot of video. I'll have the iPad out a lot this fall.
Sure. Well, I think, like you said, too, it helps them learn it. Where like, hey, stay behind the ball is a lot different than, hey, here's the iPad. Here's how you're spinning the baseball. You need to get the ball spinning in this direction.
It's a visual. It's a visual. So you think about what most players struggle to accept their identity as a pitcher, as a hitter, whatever. So if I've got a guy who's not very strong and he's trying to be plus 15 to 20 launch angle on a hitting rep photo and he's only hitting the ball 260 feet, but you take him down to plus 5 and he's hitting line drives in the 6 hole or hitting a hard ground ball. I want line drives. That's always our goal. But if he ends up hitting the ground ball on the left side of the field and we can't throw him out, or he's hitting low line or hard line drives off the top of the L screen, that's who you are. So being able to identify and accept that now these kids have to accept who they are. Doesn't mean we can't change, but until they do make adjustments or get stronger, whatever movements gets better, we have to identify who you are. Most guys that throw inside of 1 o'clock slot on a fastball around 1 o'clock, they're going to be four-seam breaking ball and more of a straight change. Most guys that throw outside of that 115 or lower, they're going to sink the ball, especially under 130. They're going to sink the ball. They're going to pitch east to west. Mm-hmm. Again, identifying those guys and helping them understand who they are as a pitcher. Most guys say they throw a cutter. It's a bad fastball. That's all it is. Most guys that cut, now 1 out of every 100 kids throws a legit cutter. Mm-hmm. So I see 12-year-olds all the time in my facility, like, I'm going to throw a cutter. I'm like, look, you don't spin the fastball well. All that cut fastball is doing is making your four-seam worse. You need to learn to stay behind the baseball and spin the ball well before you try and cut the ball. You can't command the four-seam yet. You're trying to throw a cutter. Why? So identifying who you are. Most guys don't throw a 12-6 curveball. I can't tell you how many kids, college guys, young kids, when we do our group settings, we do our group pitching clinics, these kids, I throw a 12-6. Well, no, you throw a slurve at 745. Yeah. And that's fine. That's fine. That's fine if you're getting people out, but just know you don't have that depth. Mm-hmm. You've got a little depth, you've got a lot of glove side action. So I think it's great. I think it's great for knowing who you are. But again, at the end of the day, hitters give us the best feedback.
All right.
And if we're pairing up pitches well with the fastball, we're getting guys out. That's what matters. Are we getting guys out? And hopefully that gives you. I'm really big as far as pre-throw. I don't mind the little plyos to get loose. I don't want my guys throwing for 15 minutes on a plyo. I like Chapman. I think Chapman grabs a 7 or 8 ounce ball on the pin. He throws. I'm all about getting loose. However you need to get the body going. I like mid ball. Really big on the bands. We do yoga once a week, or we try to at least mix in yoga at least once a week as a team. Mobility's huge. We don't do a lot of long distance. If a guy needs it and he thinks it makes him feel better, I'm all for it, because if that's what you have to do to get ready on the mound, that's great. But I like a lot of fast twitch, change of direction, explosive movements. You look at a sprinter and you look at a cross country runner, and no disrespect to either, but as a pitcher, I'm throwing a lot of pitches. It's a lot of small sprints that make up a marathon. Mm-hmm. When you look at a sprinter, they're cut, they're explosive. Cross country runners, their muscles are a little bit longer. It's more of obviously it's a long distance, it's a marathon. So, and they don't stop. So we want to train in that way to get explosive. Weight room. I like Olympic lifts. I like a ton of mobility stuff. So, I want these guys to be athletic, I guess, at the end of the day is the best way to put it. I want you to be athletic on the mound, and I want to be able to throw at a high intensity level without being max effort.
Now, and will you still take on the role as pitching coach, with that being your big expertise? Will you kind of keep that, or you're still trying to be pitching coach and then let someone else run the offense? You're hitting coach?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to try and control everything. Yeah, that's when everything goes to crap, in my opinion. Evan RECOR, the guy I just hired, him and Keybon Moxley will run the offense. Yeah. And obviously there's going to be things that I want inside of our offense, the way we train, and we'll work together to make sure that gets done. But, I want guys that, like I said before, that I can trust to run the offense, and I can trust to do their job. And I want to delegate. I don't think any company or any organization is ran well if you don't delegate responsibility. Mm-hmm. Because if I try and take on all that, like, why hire the other guys? Why have a staff if I'm going to try and run it? I let my catchers call pitches. If I feel like something needs to be called in at a certain time, I'll relay something. But I want pitchers to learn to be accountable. Like, hey, you could have thrown a different pitch, but you didn't execute the pitch you threw. It's not the catcher's fault. You didn't execute the pitch. So I'll run the pitchers. My assistant coach Guzzy, he'll help me with the pitchers. because there's going to be times where I've got other things I've got to take care of. So yeah, I'll focus on the pitchers. I think it's harder at the higher levels when those guys are, SEC, Power Five. Those guys spend so much time recruiting, fundraising. And I'm doing all that stuff. So you could argue it's the opposite at our level. It could even be harder here because we wear so many hats. But
right.
I would be doing these guys a disservice if I didn't relay the information I've learned on the mound. I would not be.
Exactly.
I wouldn't be doing my job if I just
let someone else.
Yeah. Now, hopefully, we get to a point as a program. We've got one full time right now. Hopefully, we get to a point as a program. We have two full time. I've got a pitching guy, a hitting guy, and then I can help mentor the pitching guy because I don't have it figured out by any means. But again, I do think there's some information that I know that I can relay to those guys. But I want to be able to help those guys. Now, this is a different conversation, but I'll touch on it because I always do. The biggest misconception in our game is that just because, I got drafted and I played in the minor leagues 2 seasons, a short season. Okay. To me, I'm proud of it, but it's not a huge deal on the grand scale. I didn't play in the big leagues. But people will assume that because I've played any level of professional baseball that I know what I'm doing.
Right.
And that is the furthest thing from the truth. Some of the best guys I've ever been around weren't great players. But they relay information well, they communicate extremely well, and they simplify things to be able to teach guys on a level they can understand. And so I think that, I don't talk a lot about that because it's relevant. 10 years ago, I'm coaching the guys right now to make them better. My experiences might help at maybe at certain times, but it's not about me. And I tell those guys that all the time. So I think there's so many young coaches that don't get a shot because they didn't play Power Five or they didn't play professionally. So, and again, there are things to be proud of, and there are things that those guys learn playing at higher levels. But I'm telling you, some of the best coaches in the game, I feel like, are at the small college level, at the high school level, at the amateur travel levels that just don't get a shot because they don't have that on their resume. So that's a different conversation, but I always want to give those guys credit because there's so many good coaches that get looked over.
Yeah, I think it's a huge thing. That's not talked about at all, and you see all even the beefs, even just within our game, and you see the crap on social media and things like that. But I mean,
oh yeah,
absolutely, and even take it a step farther for me, like I'm like, I'm in from Maryland, and I've coached in Maryland. In our Maryland public school, it's like 18 games, maybe with the Easter tournament, and like you're playing 20 games. Everybody gets in the tournament, like. It's not baseball focused. It's not but there's some of the best coaches I know that are in the country that are in this area. They just happen to live here, so even to taking a step farther where like, yeah, just because we're from Maryland doesn't mean that we can't, these guys couldn't coach in the South, or these guys couldn't run a college program. You chose life, like you just, the way that life happens, and
right.
And absolutely. But I think the really good coaches know those because I think as a good coach, it's just like, being a good player, like you respect talent, and when you're a good coach, you respect other good coaches and you just know where those talents are. So I think that is 100% agree. Like is a big misconception in our game. Some of the best hitters I know they don't know how they did it. They're like hitting's easy. I woke up on Christmas morning and get 2 hit. Like it was, people don't know.
Right. Oh yeah. But that's where, as a coach, I have to go out and hire guys that are passionate and they want to learn. Doesn't necessarily mean you play at the highest level. I think those are always, are continuing education in the game. Do you want to keep learning? Are you passionate about what you do? And can you communicate well with others? I know I've said that a million times, but if you can't communicate in this game, it just doesn't matter. If you can't communicate with guys, it's irrelevant. You can know everything, but if you can't relay it in a simplified manner to your players, because a lot of the times they don't need too much information. We could talk about the pelvis and the hip socket and yada yada yada, but hey, we just need to tell them, hey, let's get in a better preset position, stay in that back hip, and keep it simple. We don't have to overcoach these guys.
Mm-hmm. That's the reason you recruit them in the first place, because they can play.
There's a foundation. Now at our level, at the Division II level, there's usually a tool missing. or they bloomed late. There's a reason. They can really stick it, they can really hit, but they don't run well, or that the arm doesn't play, or the velo's not quite there, but they compete their butt off and they can spin it, they can back it up, like they compete on the mound. So I find a lot of times at the small college level, and I'm going into year 8 coaching at the small college level, these kids get overlooked because they are missing a tool, whether it's size, whatever it may be. So if they have that foundation, they've got some athleticism, they've got some arm speed, we can develop those guys. Because at this level, it's not Power 5. They still develop, and I'm not taking anything away from those guys, but they're recruiting guys that can come in usually right away and they can play. Even if you don't teach them anything, those guys can still come in and compete. We might have a guy who has the tools to compete, but he's just not quite there yet. So I love the recruiting. I mean, the recruiting process is my favorite. Meeting parents, getting to know mom and dad, the kid, calling coaches on them, figuring out what positions they can play, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's really fun at our level. Sometimes you got to get creative when making a lineup.
Oh, yeah. Dude, this is great. Oh, loving this stuff, man. So I'm just thinking about like the developmental part of it, because the thing that comes to mind is like, are you gonna focus on the one thing that they don't do well, or are you gonna kind of like, let's say, like I said, the guy that doesn't run well but he can rake? Like, are you still just like, look, you just need to keep raking, or do you try to maybe create that better tool where he can run to maybe see if he can get a look for the next level?
Well, I think I was talking to a guy yesterday about this. If we didn't mention mechanics, pitching or hitting mechanics, with most incoming freshmen, even some junior college guys, transfer, whatever, getting guys in the weight room, your movements get better. When you get stronger and you get more mobile, you create more stability in the body, your movements get better. So there's so many guys that benefit and that haven't been in a good weight program, even before they get instruction. They get better. And I was one of those guys. I got instruction in college, but I was upper 80s, touched like a 9 every now and then coming into college. And I left touching mid 90s. But I got strong. I got in the weight room. I learned to move better, or I moved better from learning to lift better and squat better, deadlift, whatever it was. So when you mention that, we're obviously going to go to work on the weaknesses. I think that's huge. Now, if we got a guy that runs a 7.8, even if we get him to a 7.560, like still doesn't run well.
Right.
But we're still going to try and improve that. But we're also going to recognize and understand, like, hey, your stick is your tool. At my level, since we're not fully funded and you only have 9 scholarships, Division II, I try not to bring a ton of those guys in that can't run, because if I bring you in as a first baseman and you don't hit and you can't move, you really serve no value.
Right. If
you're not hitting, because you can't go out and be a defensive guy in a corner outfield or whatever it may be. So that's a little bit different conversation. But, we want to go to work on that. For example, most pitchers coming in, and I was one of them, out of the high school level, do not understand how to control the run game. They're 1-5s to the plate.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 1 count and go, or a 2 count and go. There's really no variation in their holds and looks, which, by the way, I think is the best way to hold the run game, not by picking. But they really don't have a clean understanding of how to manage the run game. So that's an area that a lot of guys struggle, and we work on that every day. Base running. Some of our faster guys don't understand how to run the bags. Every day after dynamic stretch, we do some type of base running piece. So going back to what you were talking about, we got guys that can run, got guys that can hit, can't run the bags. They don't understand how to run the bag. So I think it's important that we find those deficiencies, those weaknesses, and we exploit them in the fall, and we go to work on them, and you're not going to have many guys at this level that have 5 tools. There will be some, but not many. So that goes back to our conversation earlier is, hey, who are you as a player?
Yes.
What's your identity as a player? You're lefty, 78 to 83. You got good sink and a good change up, back foot breakable. That's good. probably not going to, you're going to live down and away. We'll get inside at times to establish the inner part of the plate, but you're probably not going to live on the inner half of the plate against the right-handed hitter with 18 inches of horizontal break on a two-seam.
Mm-hmm.
Not many guys can back whip a fastball, start it on the hip, and throw it on the inner half, without running into the middle of the plate. But and I think most guys, and that's where Rapsodo comes in and technology, they just don't understand who they are as a player, who they are as a hitter. So I think the technology can help reinforce that. Doesn't mean everything. Doesn't tell us everything. Doesn't measure heart, tangibles like that. But I think it does help tremendously. So I guess that's my biggest thing with how we build.
So like, I'm just thinking of like when you go into your structure and your practice plans, I'm just thinking of like the type of hitters, and even the type of pitcher, but especially hitting wise, will you just, as you help them understand who they are, will you then put them in certain groups based off of like, hey, you guys are all kind of the same. You guys here's our big corner guys, big power guys. Here are our big speed guys. Are you basically, is that how you structure them, put them together when it comes to practice?
We can. I think there's a lot of principles in the swing, and my hitting coach could speak more on this, but we hit with really good posture, trying to stay in that back hip, stay in the ground as long as we can. We're balanced, things like that. But I don't think we necessarily break them up into groups. Because I don't think you shouldn't need four guys like you to understand who you are as a player. Now, does it help? Absolutely. When we do small group work, we'll probably break it up that way. Corner guys, middle guys, outfielders, but whatever setting you're in, I think you still have to identify and understand who you are as a player. But I think it probably is beneficial that when we do small group work, that we've got left-handed hitters that run really well. Like, hey, we bunt every day.
Yeah.
That's one thing we do. We bunt every single day. So maybe we work a little bit more with the drag in that group, or we're working on maybe hitting a hard ground ball on the backside of the field with our left-handed guys that can really run. Whatever it may be. Pitchers, we're putting all our left-handers together because we got to work on our moves. That's another thing we do every single day. And I think that stuff is important for muscle memory and et cetera, whatever. But one thing that I really like, and again, I told you my fall is the fall is my favorite. I really like the competition that's breeded in the fall. I really like whether it's we got exit velos running in the cage and we split them up into two teams of 10 and we take whatever team has the highest average exit velo, whatever it is. I love the competition. And I love seeing, and I paid off from this, I love seeing kids come from not so good high school programs. They get into the college setting and they get around guys that are better than them or as good or better than them. And it really raises their level of training. A lot of guys don't know how to work hard, and I know that sounds silly. They don't know what to do. They don't know what a routine looks like, from the tee to flips to machine to post recovery, whatever. A lot of guys don't understand how to work hard. They don't understand when to go hard and when not to. They don't really understand that. And I know that sounds silly, but I didn't really understand how to truly work hard and do it in an efficient way where I wasn't killing myself. So putting some of these young guys around some of the older guys, I love it. I told the guys coming into this fall, every position on our field is wide open. I'm going to play the best players. I don't care if I got 9 18-year-olds on the field. It doesn't matter to me. I'm playing the very best players to give us the best opportunity to win, and if I've got some tweeners or if I've got some guys that are similar, I'm going with the guy who's got the higher academics, and I'm not saying like if I got a 2.2 GPA and I got a 3.8 and they're the same player,
no brainer. I'm
going with the guy that I can trust in the classroom that's doing what he's supposed to be doing. And we haven't talked a lot about that, but that to me, that is, we give a lot of help academically with our student success and all that stuff, but that is just one thing that I think I've got 2 guys coming in, maybe 3, underneath a 3.0. Good. So the academic side is huge because all this stuff we're talking about, if you don't handle your academics, you're probably not going to attack your baseball stuff in the same manner. We want guys that attack the classroom the same way they attack the field. Now, they probably enjoy the baseball field a whole lot more than they do the classroom. But I want guys that compete in the classroom just as hard as they do on the field. Because how much easier is it to show up to the field and compete for a job when you know you've handled your business in the classroom?
Mm-hmm.
But in the back of your mind, you're out here trying to win a job, but you're not doing your work in the classroom. You're not doing the things you're supposed to do. It's you got a lot more on your conscience. So that's a part that I haven't really touched on a lot. But the academic side is just so important to us. It's a privilege to get on the baseball field, and if you don't take care of the academics, you lose that privilege.
Absolutely. No, I'm glad you touched base on it, and we can absolutely dive into all that. I think it comes back to too, like you said earlier, about when the maturity comes, the baseball player will come with it. The more mature you get, the better ball player you're going to be. You're thinking better. You're making better decisions. You're doing things that you know that you have to do, even though you might not feel like doing them. That's maturity.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like maturity is like, look, I got to get these things done. And I kind of liked it because I know I have to get them done. And most people won't feel like it, So I think that kind of comes down to what you were saying there too. So man, by all means, like, will you do like competitions with certain things? Like you said about with like the GPA and stuff like that, or is it just like the standard and say like, do you have study halls or like, what are you kind of doing to kind of hold that expectation?
This fall, I'll put all of my freshmen in study groups, and we'll have some guys. We have some tutors. We're a state school, so we've got some guys that do work study. They tutor. Excuse me. We'll put our guys in the study groups to help them. Really, for me, it's the expectation.
Yeah.
And it's recruiting good students. But just because you had a 3.8 in high school doesn't mean you're going to have a 3.8 in college. Can you handle the adversity of a 50-game schedule? Can you handle the adversity of practice 5 days a week in the fall? Mom and dad not being there to hold you accountable to get out of bed. So I think we have to have support. I don't think we can't just let those guys just try and go by themselves and figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And hold their hand in everything. I have a standard. I want a 3.2 GPA. That's what I would like to see. But I don't really run competitions with it because I think if I've got a guy that's doing everything he absolutely can in the classroom, he's going to tutoring, he's going to study groups, and he gets 2.5, I'm fired up for that guy. If I got a guy that's not doing what he's supposed to do and he's got a 2.5, but he could be a 3.5, then I've got an issue with that kid.
Right.
Everyone's built differently academically. I think everyone can give the same effort, but that doesn't mean everyone's going to get the same results. Like I just said, lazy guy gets a 2.5, one guy working really extremely hard gets a 2.5. I'm not going to shame both of them, because my one guy worked his tail off, and that's what he got. He did everything he could to get that 2.5, and we'll celebrate that, and we'll keep pushing it. Everyone's not built equally, and we understand that. Some guys learn better. Some guys have to put in more work. But the academic side, to me, I do grade checks. We do classroom checks. We want to make sure that our guys are showing up to class is 95% of the battle. Getting out of bed and just being where you're supposed to be on time. So that's a different conversation. But, again, the expectations. I don't have a lot of rules. I got a lot of expectations for these guys. And if they don't meet those, then they'll have to hopefully get it in gear. And if they can't do that after a while, then they'll have to find somewhere else to play, because in our program, it's the expectation that we handle ourselves in the classroom and we're grown men. Because baseball comes after the academic side.
Oh yeah, and like you said, one of your pillars is just accountability, and it's just that's where all that comes in, knowing that you're be accountable. And I'm sure you're kind of working towards, being that player led, where the kids end up holding each other to that standard as well.
They police themselves. Yeah, absolutely. Well, the hardest thing to do in life, I think, is to admit that you're wrong.
Yeah.
Like, hey, that was my fault. Like that's on me. But once you can learn to do that, you can move forward. You can't move forward until you can self-reflect and self-evaluate yourself. Like, hey, that's my fault. I was in the wrong. Now once you admit that, you can move forward and grow. And until you can accept accountability, you can't really move forward with anything. You can't grow mentally. You just can't grow, and most guys that aren't accountable, they're not coachable at all. I mean, they're not coachable at all, so, but yeah, that's accountability is a huge piece. I want these guys to have fun. We're not running a Marine. It's not boot camp. we're going to have fun, but winning is fun. Doing things the right way is fun. You know, how much fun do guys have when they don't do things the right way and they lose? You know,
Right.
you do things the right way and you lose some tight games, you know, you're still having fun on the baseball field. There's a lot worse things in life than competing for 9 innings on a baseball field, but we've got to do things the right way. You know, when I first took over, we're getting off the bus all at different times. We got guys they got Crocs on, trying to walk onto the field. And I'm like, look, you know, we function together. We move together. We do things as a unit, as a team. You might all have different identities, and that's fine. But it all says Bluefield State on the front of our jersey. We operate as a unit together. You know, we represent ourselves, our families, our schools. So organization, again, back to the first thing we talked about, structure. You know, so trying to build that structure. Hey, we're 15 minutes early to everything we do. You know, stuff like that is extremely important to me, and that's all stuff. Coaching, everything you've learned as a teacher and a coach is probably something that you've learned from somebody else, right?
Oh yeah.
You know, my college coach I owe that guy the world, Kevin Garrett. I mean, I was immature when I got to college. You know, I thought everything was just about baseball. It took me a while, probably a little bit longer than others. You know, I'm one paper away from finishing my MBA. Most people would tell you I'd never get my MBA. But that man instilled so much structure in me and accountability. I had no choice but to accept it. You know, I had no choice but to grow. Now, there were some hard times. I made some bad decisions. I mean, nothing crazy, but I had to learn. I had my growing pains.
Sure.
But I want to be that guy, that Andrew Wright. He's director of player development for the Yankees now. He was at University of Charleston. He was my pitching coach the year I got drafted at Concord. That guy taught me a lot, you know, how to face adversity. A lot of these kids don't know what adversity truly is. They just think they went 0 for 4. Not, hey, I've got a $400 AEP bill, but I've still got to put groceries on the table. You know, oh, and by the way, I need a new roof on my house. You know, or somebody's sick. Like a lot of these guys, and I didn't know either at that age. So handling adversity, that all goes back to being accountable, you know, perseverance. You know, and one thing I'll say, I'm jumping around a little bit, but in the World Series, I kept telling our guys, we got kicked out of our hotel rooms during the tournament. There was just some logistical errors. We had to move hotels, you know, that we faced so much adversity in that tournament. We had to get beat twice in the championship game, got absolutely destroyed by Xavier University out of Louisiana, had an LSU transfer, had some really good guys. We got destroyed. But I just kept telling them the whole tournament, like, hey, don't ride that roller coaster. Don't ride that emotional roller coaster. Like, we have to stay persistent in everything we're doing. Like, we have to keep pushing forward. Like, we can't, there's going to be ups, there's going to be downs. We've got to keep pushing forward. And I think that just holds true to life. You know, like you get a big bill in the mail, you never know. You might get a raise at work later on that week. But if you pout and you're not confident and you don't keep working, you don't try and push through that adversity, usually good things don't happen for you. You know, so I'm always just real big on when something really good happens, there's going to be a tough time coming. And when tough times are happening, something good's going to come. So I think keeping that consistent approach in your mindset in your everyday life is huge. What can you control? And if you can't control what's happening around you, then, you know, don't focus on it. But I was 21. I didn't think like this.
That's
you know?
right.
I was 20. I was 19, you know, so trying to get these guys to even think a little bit like that, I think is big. Baseball just teaches you so much. And, you know, obviously you can tell I love it. But
Absolutely. That's awesome. That's exactly what this is about, man. That's exactly why I knew you'd be a great guy for to be able to talk to. I love being able to talk to just like-minded dudes. And so my question is, so from the coaching standpoint, is thinking like, these are the things you want to teach. So you talk about classroom check, but do you have classroom sessions about these kind of things? Like, let's say the things that you want to control, you know, like that's a lesson. Hey, we're really struggling with that. You know, like, so will you have like a classroom session about
we have
this?
a lot of talks about that stuff. Yeah, we have a lot of talks about that stuff in practice, start practice. I communicate in the group me app a ton. I try and send, you know, whether it's pictures with quotes or whatever. I just try and say, it's not just one thing, you know, it's our culture. It's how we operate every day. It's how we communicate. Now, one thing that I started doing, and maybe this helps with what you're asking. One thing that I started doing this year is I started an Into the Real World series for my guys. And what I do is I bring in different professionals from all areas of life, police officers, preachers. We brought in small business owners. We brought in IT guys to talk to the guys about their story, their path of how they got to where they were, facing their adversity in life, what they do in their everyday career, professional careers. Because I want these guys to start to figure out what they want to do in life. A lot of these guys, they say you change your major like 2 or 3 times on average. So they really like, I'm still coach at the end of the day. They see me every day. Right. But when they can hear it from others about the adversity they face, about what they do for a professional, what they do for their professional career, they can ask questions. Hey, how did you get here? What decisions did you make to do this? What was it like? Was it hard? What's the income potential for a job like you have? I want these guys to be curious. I want them to have questions. I want them to learn about what they're passionate about. Maybe they decide, okay, I heard him speak. Maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe I do want to be a police officer. Maybe this is what I want to do with my career. So I think they've enjoyed it. Maybe they'll tell you something different, but it seems like they've really enjoyed it. I've brought in a lot of business, a lot of small business owners. I've brought in counselors, preachers, like I said, police officers, just so many different professionals to speak to our guys. The IT guy was awesome, teaching our guys how to utilize their phone. My buddy Rodney Casey, he's in IT. He does his own small business he does reviews on YouTube with different types of IT. Teaching guys how to use their phones efficiently to manage their task and manage their day and organizational skills, stuff like that. So I'm going to continue that the entire year. I don't overwhelm them with stuff because they have, being a student athlete, you have so much on your plate.
Oh yeah.
But once a week or once every 2 weeks, I try and bring in professionals to speak to our guys, just give them some insight into how they got where they were and why they're successful and what they're doing. And I hope the guys appreciate it, and it's something we'll continue to do.
Oh yeah. So you said you do try to do that once a week.
Once every couple of weeks, on availability and guys that can be there. I try and put a quote or some type of motivational quote into our practice plan sometimes, but a lot of it's our daily communication.
Yeah.
It's our daily communication. One thing I got on a guy this year in the World Series, he said something, and I remember asking him, hey, if your son saw you, when you have a son, if he saw you acting this way, would you be okay with it? One of my kids was like, no, coach, I wouldn't. I want these guys to remember that they're learning and they're getting set up to be fathers, husbands, co-workers. Baseball's a small part. While we do hope that they're making a 60, 40, 50, 60 year commitment to Bluefield State, it's not just a 4-year commitment. I'm 10 years removed out of Concord, and I couldn't be prouder that I played there. The things we accomplished on the field were ranked in the country, played in the NCAA tournament multiple times, whatever. But the brotherhood that I created, the relationships that I created, we hope these guys understand they're making a 40-year commitment. They'll learn that as they go, as they get deeper into the process. But, the communications that we have with these guys on a daily basis, I think impacts them more than they probably realize, as long as we're doing what we're supposed to do and we're leading by example, because to some of these guys we are their father figure. Some of these guys don't have dads at home.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these guys or maybe don't have a good example of what a father should be doing. And we never aim to be their father or be a replacement for that. But I strive to be someone these guys can look up to, just the same way my college coaches were to me. And that's why I think it's so important. If you go look at Tim Corbin, you go look at Brian O'Connor, you go look at all the different coaches in college baseball, they lead from the top. They set the tone. They are the measuring stick, the way they act, the way they react, and we talk about that all the time. Your reaction to everything, the way you react is everything. Can you take the emotion out of your reaction and react in a proactive way? Like, hey, how can I fix this? Not, oh, this sucks, woe is me. How can I fix this? What can I do to get over this, get through this? What can I do okay, I struck out. Why did I strike out? What can I do to move forward? And I think getting in that mindset is huge. The mental side of the game is not talked about enough.
Mm.
It's just all about the physical tools and the results. The mental side of the game is not spoke on enough. What's my thought process? How do I clear my thought? Okay, I took a bad swing. Am I readjusting my batting gloves? Am I fixing my helmet, my hat, whatever? What is my wipe it clear? What's my sequence to wipe it clear? And what's my reset button, I guess is what I'm getting to.
Yep.
Hit that big reset button. So the mental side's not talked about enough. But again, like we talked about earlier, we first have to do this well off the field, in the classroom, in the community. We do some community service stuff. Like, we have to act the same way and take all these principles off the field, and then on the field's that's last. But if we're doing those off the field, usually on the field, the results come, the lessons are learned, so it's all a part of that process.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Because then those things just happen as an end result. It's just the end result of the process.
Yeah, it's a byproduct. Winning is a byproduct.
Yep. Doing those things, doing the right things. That's what you were talking about. Absolutely. Oh man, the reaction, the response, all those things you control. Absolutely. You control how you do that. So that's absolutely. So like, when you think of like the mental game, like where do you like to instill that the most? Like, where do you find the best places to do that? Was just that, again, is it the daily communication? Do you bring it in a part of your BP? Do you bring it in part of maybe a side session? Like, where do you find the best ways to incorporate the mental game?
So we brought a motivational speaker in. Her name was Valerie Burrell this year, and she was great. And this is just one segment, but she challenged our guys a lot, and she asked every guy on our team, what's your why?
Mm-hmm.
What's your why? I remember Butch Thompson. Actually, I'll get to see them next week. We're going down to work the Auburn camp. My staff is, and I'm two of the guys on my staff. I'm excited. He's had I only worked 2 of his camps, but he is just such a good guy. I learned so much just from being around him in a small time, and he's a role model for me. I strive the way he communicates with players. I'll never forget. He told me, I'll go back to Valerie, but he told me, you have to build guys up before you try and break them down.
Yeah.
Like, guys, you can't always tell. It can't all be negative. Like, people need to know that they're valued. They need to know that what they do is valued. They need to know that they have ability, not just physical skill set, mental, what they bring to the table as a teammate. You got to build guys up before you break them down. But Valerie challenged our guy, like, what's your why? Our guys, what's your why? Like, why are you doing this? And some guys would kind of look at the floor and they didn't really know what to say. Other guys were like, I want to win. And that's fine if that's your goal. Other guys are saying, my why is my education. That's fine too. Everyone's got a different why. But I remember that morning we had a lot of guys just kind of like, you could tell they were really like thinking in their mind, like, I don't really know. I what's my purpose? Like, why am I here? Butch always says, what's your playbook? Or he said, what's your playbook? The year I worked camp at 17. And he said for him, it's scripture. Like, the Bible is his playbook. I thought that was great. Now not everybody has faith in God, and that's fine. I don't push those on guys. I like to think that I'm a faithful person, but what is your why? What motivates you? What drives you? Why are you doing this? And I think that's challenging right there, to get young men to think in that manner. Most of them are just like, hey, I've been playing this game my whole life. It's just what I do. But no, baseball is a platform. Like, we want to serve others, and that's my goal. A guy told me the other day working Team USA camp. He said, he just got done playing, and he was talking about how different it was. He's like, I just don't feel like I had the same impact when I was a player. I was like, and I thought about it for a second. I was like, look, you're going to have a larger impact.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you have impacted your teammates, and that's great as a player, but now you have the ability. You're out here working with kids, you're out here working with young men that want to get in the same position you were. Now you have a bigger voice, because going into coaching, you're doing lessons, you're going to have a bigger audience to be able to impact. And he was like, I didn't really think about it like that, or, I contemplating it. And it's like, I think we let baseball be our identity sometimes, but it's just what we do. It's not who we are.
Mm-hmm.
It's our platform to, set leadership examples, set the culture and just prepare guys for real life. But oftentimes, and I went through it when I got out of the minor leagues, it's like, man, baseball was my identity. I let it become who I am, but it's not who I am. It's just what I do. I'm a father, I'm a husband, business owner, whatever it may be. But those are still, I want to impact and serve people, but I don't want to just be recognized for baseball. So again, all that goes to off the field stuff. We can talk X's and O's and data and all that, but we got to get guys in the right mindset. We have to get guys that act like grown men or in the process of becoming grown men.
Mm-hmm. Everybody just gets better. You surround yourself with good people, just like from the staff standpoint. But if we all become more mature, but better people, we all grow as a whole, for sure.
We have to be challenged. We have to be challenged. Me as a coach, I have to be challenged. I want my assistants to challenge me. I might not always listen to what they say because I'm going to make the final decision with the lineup or whatever, but I absolutely always want their opinion. Might not always take it, but I'm going to listen to it. I'm going to value it, and then I'm going to make the decision like, hey, okay, we're going to go with what coach proposed or we're not, or maybe we're going to do a part of it, but I want people's opinions. I want to be challenged. If you're not second guessing yourself, I don't think you're in the right ballpark. You have to second guess yourself a little bit because that's forward thinking. That's continuing education. That's trying to wake up every day and learn. Am I doing what's best for my guys? Am I doing what's best for these young men? And I try and give a balance. I try and check on these guys because think about how much pressure is created now. Social media.
Yeah. A lot.
You're a 10th grader and you're not committed yet. It's like, well, no, you're in 10th grade. You're not supposed to be committed yet. But they see that kid that's throwing 88 in 10th grade and he's committed. It's like, no, that's not how that's supposed to be. Just the pressure and everything from social media, performance anxiety. I think a text or a meeting or just pulling a guy to the side, you doing all right? Checking in on guys. Guys will play hard for you if they know you care about them.
Mm-hmm.
It can't just always be results. You have a 7 ERA, still love you. I still care about you. You might not be getting as many innings but I don't not love you. I don't not care about you because you're struggling a little bit. That's just part of the process. That's part of your story. We're going to get through it. We're going to get better, but I'm not going to, that's one thing I don't want to treat guys differently just because they don't perform, and I think that happens all the time in athletics. It's like, you're not performing for me. Like, I'm going to treat you differently. No, I mean, you might not play as much, you might not be in a lineup, but
yeah,
I still love you as a person. And you got to love on these guys. They need to know that you care about them. Because, they got girlfriends. They've got academics. They've got baseball. They've got peer pressure. They have so much. They've got family. They've got sickness. Everybody's dealing with something. So you got to check in on these guys. Now, when it comes game day, practice time, the ability to set that stuff to the side and stay on task, that's what separates guys. Guys that don't let their off-field issues flood onto the field.
Mm-hmm.
That's what separates guys. So, but I do think it's so important to establish relationships with your guys. Now, there's got to be boundaries, but, at the end of the day, we're all human. And I recruited you for a reason. I brought you into this program. I'm not going to treat you any differently. Or I'm going to try, and I sure as heck hope I'm not. I don't want to treat you any differently just based off how you're performing. So that's just a little tidbit there.
Oh man, that was great, man. It was just preaching it, loving it. Just wrapping thing. We're over an hour already, man. Like, I guess I like to respect your time and would love to see if anybody would want to reach out to you, maybe find more things, more details about the stuff that you're talking about. Maybe I know you're really, 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 you can say you're really educated and well versed with like Rapsodo and things like that. So what's the best way for someone to contact me to talk some more baseball?
Just send me an email, abailey@bluefieldState.edu. I'll help all I can. Obviously I'm learning every day, just like everybody else, but I'll help people all I can. There's a lot of people that have helped me in my career. There's a lot of people that still help me. I think we all need help. And I think that's where it's so important that you surround yourself with good people. But yeah, email abailey@bluefieldState.edu. Shoot me an email. I'll shoot you my cell phone number.
Cool. That'd be awesome. Yeah. I think, like you said, too, those are the guys that you're looking for too. You're always learning. So, and like you said, if it starts at the top and Knowing that you're always learning is just another great thing about you, Drew. Man, I really appreciate it, buddy. It's been awesome.
I appreciate everything you do to grow the game and give guys a platform to speak about. I mean, how many guys know about Bluefield State College? Hopefully, right now,
They will
moving
now.
forward, yeah, they'll learn a lot more. But the platforms that you give for people to get educated and learn, that's what it's all about. Because somewhere there's going to be a young coach listening to this, and maybe they might shoot me an email. Maybe they shoot you an email trying to connect with another coach you had on the podcast or a trainer or whoever it may be. Like, I think we're in society now where it's like the transfer portal is so terrible. Social media is terrible. No, there's a lot of, if you look at only the negatives, yeah, transfer portal example, that's a different topic, but coaches change jobs all the time.
Oh yeah.
Kid might be recruited somewhere and a coaching change happens, or the coach isn't what he sold on the recruiting visit and he wants to get in a better situation, So stuff like that, we got to find the positives in things. How can we grow? Social media is such a good platform. Think about how many guys now have access to resources because of social media.
Mm-hmm.
But now we got young coaches that are probably afraid to put information out there because they just get ridiculed and just critiqued, and people just crush them because that's not the way they teach. At the end of the day, if what I'm doing is working for my guys in my locker room, that's what matters.
It's just transfer, right?
I'm not coaching your guys. You're not coaching my guys. But if I can take something from you and relay it to my guys and it makes them better, all day. I'm always open to learning and being able to take something, a nugget, whatever you call it, from another coach and relay it to my guys and make them better. But social media, unfortunately, has a lot of guys that just want to focus on the negative stuff and not. I don't do it that way, but if it works for you guys, that's great. Like, that's a great way. I've never heard of it that way before. So I'd like to see more positivity on that stuff. But again, I really appreciate you having me on and talking about our program, our academics, and what our school just added 13 sports. We're building new athletic facilities. We have so much good stuff going on. I couldn't be more excited about it.
Yeah, man, me too, man. I love following you, and and it's great to see you having success, kind of every step of the way. But now just at a different platform, and the diversity that our kind of country is, looking for, and especially the way things are right now. I think you're in a good spot to do some even bigger things, like you said, than just baseball. It's pretty awesome, man.
I'm definitely trying. So if I can ever do anything for you, please let me know, because I'm all about growing the game, and we're building young men, and everything you're doing is helping, is aiding in that in a positive manner.
Appreciate it, buddy. Guys like it's only possible with guys like you, man. So I appreciate that, and we'll definitely keep in touch for sure. I can't wait till the next time we talk, man. It's gonna be awesome.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, Trey. I appreciate you, buddy.
Coach Drew Bailey from Bluefield State College, just showing us why they were so successful in year one, as he's able to turn a culture around there. Bluefield State, and wish him nothing but the best here as he continues to move forward with his culture and helping use his platform to grow more than just great baseball players, which he is absolutely doing that. But just a couple things rehashing that really stuck out to me was just how encompassing of a whole program, not just a single thing, not just focusing on the baseball's got to be really good and they've got to get talented players, but now it's also holding the standards, holding the expectations, and creating that great culture that he wants there and wanting to build it. You can see he's very detailed with his pitching instruction. So the instruction, the baseball knowledge is there, and they're creating a better staff. And the more they do that, and they continue to, along with their expectations and their standards. And Coach Bailey is just really doing a great job, and really just showing how he can really build a program. And one of the great things that really stuck out to me, I loved his into the real world sessions. He brings in people throughout the community to talk about their success and really how they deal with adversity. I love how they talk about to a kid when he's recruiting is a 40-year commitment, not just a 4-year commitment. Because if we want your alumni, that shows you like we're not going to be just transactional here, just looking at the next 4 years. You provide service, thank you very much, see you later. Now, that's a 40-year commitment that you're making throughout the year. And I really liked that. It spoke a lot to me. It's even just the alumni piece. And, again, if you want to reach out to him, please do. Email is abailey, BAILEY, at bluefieldState.edu. Bailey at bluefieldState.edu. So, Coach Bailey, man, can't thank you enough. Love how you're using the baseball platform to serve others, and love how you talk about baseball is just what we do. It's not who we are, and it can't be more than true. And it's always good to remind us about that. So, again, Coach, I can't thank you enough. And again, thank you to those guys at Netting Pros, Will Miner, and the guys there helping sponsor our podcast. I really appreciate their improving programs one facility at a time. So contact them, info@nettingpros.com, or visit their website at nettingpros.com, or any of the social media platforms from Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. So again, guys, can't thank you enough. And until next week, keep getting better.